I am here with the one and only Michael Chandler, former Bellator lightweight champion, three-time UFC title challenger, contender, Ultimate Fighter 31 coach, and I could just keep going with this, but we'll get started with the questions. I guess the big news here, Michael, you are going into the tequila business with Hiatus, and I just want to get started there. How did this come about?
Oh man, I've tequila has been my drink of choice now for as long as I can remember. Obviously, there's some really bad ones I've tasted, some really good ones I've tasted, and as I've gotten into it more and more, and trying different expressions and trying different distilleries, trying different tequilas, I've really grown an appreciation over the years. And a friend of mine, a little over a year ago, had me try Hiatus tequila, and from the first moment that I had it, I just knew I wanted more. I wanted more of it on my shelf, but I also wanted more involvement, and I just didn't want to just be an ambassador. Once I met Chris DeSoto, our founder, I knew his passion for the authenticity and the heritage and the culture behind it. I just knew I wanted to be involved in a big way, so I became an investor of the company, and now we are finally getting to announce something that we've been working on now behind the scenes for quite some time, and it's exciting, man. We're not gonna stop till Hiatus is in glasses all around the world.
Now, my drinking days are a little bit behind me, but sell me on this. What's the selling point for this particular tequila?
Well, so first of all, when you notice it, so just starting with the branding, obviously it's very fitting right now. I have been on a 1 year hiatus right now, which has not been a bad thing, right? As hard of a worker as I am, known as the hardest worker in the room, the guy who never takes time off, I have my moments where I need to take rest, recovery, and take a hiatus. So um, just the word and the ethos behind taking a break for a hard worker like me. But then we're an additive-free tequila, certified kosher, and it is tequila for tequila people. It is, from the sense on the nose, from the first sip that you have, man. Today tequila has gotten so I guess gotten so saturated with people coming in and breaking into the market, which is now one of the biggest sectors or buckets in the spirits industry with crazy amounts of growth. So people are standing up tequilas all day long, and this has been around for a couple of years, and it's just the ethos behind doing things the way that I do it in my everyday life, in my fight career, doing it the way that it is supposed to be. I was just down at La Cofradía, our distillery, a couple weeks ago, and spent a couple of days down there in Mexico and just seeing the process and how it was done, how it was made, with the craftsmanship and the authenticity behind it. So that's what differentiates us, and the taste obviously is the most important part. So we know we have a phenomenal product, a phenomenal juice inside the actual bottle. So once people try it, I believe they're going to want more, just like I did.
You touched on it there. You've been on a hiatus. Obviously, you didn't choose a name, like you said. They've been around for a bit, but it is fitting. Is that hiatus, that time off from fighting? A, has it been frustrating? And B, is that what kind of inspired you to get into the business venture?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily this one. I think I'm always looking. I've always got my ears open. I know that eventually I'm going to take those gloves off for the last time, and I will no longer be a fighter. I will leave that in my past, and it'll be a part of my journey. But I'm going to be a fighter for or a father much longer than I was a fighter, and a husband and a businessman. And the years after fighting are going to be so much longer than this short little blip on the radar. So when I discovered Hiatus, met Chris DeSoto, it was something I wanted to be more involved in. And as the conversations got deeper and deeper, and I was able to peel back the layers and really get to know the people behind the brand, behind the actual bottle, it was just a no-brainer for me. So yeah, I am not a sit on my hands kind of guy. When I am not busy training, I am always thinking about the next step, what's going to get my family, my wife, my sons in the best possible scenario to be financially free, to live a thriving life. So I'm always interested in business. And I think I bring a decent amount to the table. I'm not just I always wanted to break the mold of what a fighter was. I'm not just a pugilist inside the cage, a guy who can lead with love and integrity, and help people who have a passion. And Chris DeSoto has a passion behind Hiatus. And now I share that same passion, and we're excited to continue to spread the message.
Well, you kind of touched on it there. Your fighting career is kind of a blip in the grand scheme of things. So, is there a chance we see the Michael Chandler name on more products moving forward? Maybe not just necessarily in the alcohol world.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And not because I'm some savant at creating products or I'm some revolutionary brain who's able to come up with these crazy cool ideas. I mean, tequilas have been around forever, right? Cram Nutrition, our peanut butter and jelly sandwich, has been around for a very, very long time. These other companies that I am involved in, these other investments that I have made, I think it's more the fact that I want to be in the actual building of the brand awareness and the building of the business, to be at the board meetings, to be on the calls, to be, I head out tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. to drive up to Indiana to go meet with 5 or 6 different distributors and liquor stores and doing meet and greets and actually working in the business, right? Working in the mission. And I think people see that. And then when you have a reputation that's pretty darn good and you work pretty hard, good things happen. So, yeah, you're going to be seeing a lot of me continuing moving forward in the business world, because I've always had that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. I never wanted to be just a fighter or just a wrestler or just an athlete. I wanted to be able to parlay that into capturing as many hearts and minds around the world as I can and using my platform for good.
Well, it's an interesting new chapter. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a couple of other questions. One thing is that when I look at your career, like you said, it's a blip, but it's been a long blip in your case. And you go back to 2011, the first Eddie Alvarez fight of the year from a lot of publications. I can remember where I was when I watched that fight, which is a rarity. You'd fast forward 10 years later, 2021, fight of the year, Justin Gaethje. What is kind of the key to having those kind of fights, high level, exciting, put down what you're doing and watch them across such a long span? Because we see a lot of guys have a few great fights in a very short time frame and they kind of burn out or the damage takes its toll. What's been the key for you?
Man, you talk about burnout. I have a passion for this, and I really get to do this. This is not something that I have to do. I could have laid the gloves down quite a while ago with the friendships that I have, the relationships that I have, the decent amount of business acumen that I have, and I could go lay the gloves down and go into business and be pretty darn successful. But I get to do this. I love to do this. I have a passion for it. I believe it's a platform that millions of people would love to trade places with me at any given moment. So I try to live every practice like it's my last, live every day like it's my last. I know it sounds cliche, but I just have a passion for it. And I think it's an awesome opportunity. And I've always envisioned that guy someday who is retired from the fighting. And I want to be able to answer the question, Michael, did you do every single thing that you possibly could with the talents you were given? And that's how I live. And I think that has lent itself to a longer career. And obviously physically and supplementation wise and taking care of myself, the lifestyle that I live, of course, that helps as well. And then you see the passion play out inside of my fights, the indomitable spirit that a lot of people talk about, that kind of warrior spirit. And then I'm not going to sit here and say that some of that talent wasn't God given. I think that you have to have a certain amount of talent, a certain amount of God-given tenacity, a certain amount of God-given passion. And then, it's up to you to take that little bit that you have or that lot that you have and then turn it in and multiply it every day, day after day, brick by boring brick. And I think that's why it's worked out. And I'd be lying if I didn't say every now and then I pinch myself and say, man, 15 years already, so many people behind me who came up in the sport would have traded just an extra year. So every single year for the last 5 years or so, I've really, really taken stock in and enjoyed every single ounce of it.
Well, you talk about the passion, you talk about the hiatus that you've been on. I've got to ask you, what are the chances we see you back, say, for UFC 300? I know there's probably a lot you can't say, but what's the over/under on maybe you and Conor UFC 300? Do you believe it's going to happen? First half of this year.
Yeah, I don't know over and under, but I can say obviously that's we are announced up till January, February, March. So obviously that next big announcement is going to be UFC 300. The blessing and the curse of such a monumental card is the UFC is going to do a pretty good job of keeping their cards close to their chest because, let's be honest, there's some secret super fights going on, secret negotiations, phone calls being made, pie in the sky dream matchups that are probably being talked about in that war room on Tuesday. Actually, today's Tuesday. That's when the UFC kind of convenes and starts talking about all those fights and the matchups and the matchmaker meeting. But that's the blessing and the curse of being talked about being on that card. I'm not saying that we are, but I sure would like to be. You know, obviously, who wouldn't want to be a part of UFC 300? I think me and Conor is blockbuster. It's a blockbuster type of matchup. It's a blockbuster type of fight. The greatest comeback in combat sports history, he calls it. Plus, one of the most, if not the most exciting guy on the roster who actually goes out there and is not afraid to go out on his shield at any given moment. So, you know, we're focused on enjoying the holidays for the next couple weeks, do a little hiatus work, continuing to do the internal and the external work here in Nashville, Tennessee. And the first of the year, hopefully things start heating up and we get into a training camp.
Confident that it happens first half, let's say?
I'm very confident. I'm very confident that it happens first half. I could be wrong. Let's be honest. You know, as we all have been, the speculation is running wild, obviously, and that's par for the course for a huge fight like this. This is going to be one of the biggest fights that we've seen in recent years because of Conor's injury. Is he ever going to come back? Plus his ups and downs that we've seen over the last couple of years of him being on his hiatus, and then me being held out now for a year or so. People chomping at the bit to want to see me get back in the cage, get back in there and compete. But I've been enjoying this hiatus the last year. It's been great for the body, mind, soul, and spirit. And you're going to see a different animal when I finally do get to strap on those UFC gloves, bite down on that mouthpiece, and go out there and get another knockout of the year.
Well, looking forward to that. Looking forward to the launch of this. It's very cool. Glad to see that you've got you know, something that is obviously a big thing for you. I'm going to ask you one more, and then I'll let you go. We saw your old home, Bellator MMA, picked up by the PFL recently, and I'm just wondering about your reaction to that. You had a huge history there. Was it a little bittersweet to see it end the way it did? It is going to live on in some sense.
Yeah, it'll live on. And you know, for me, just like I talked about, it's not about the bottle or the brand or the product. It's the people behind it, you know? So even with Bellator, man, I got numerous text messages. I sent numerous text messages out to people from Bellator because they're human beings and their heartbeats. And I loved them and I loved my time there. They love me. We still have a phenomenal relationship. So it was interesting, bittersweet, but this is business. This is the fight game, as we call it, and you know, it's gonna be cool and interesting to kind of see how it all plays out. And hats off to PFL. I think they're doing a great job. Hats off to Bellator. I hope it's all working out for everybody. I train with a lot of guys from Bellator. Train with a lot of guys from PFL. You know, Impa just won the title there. My boy Jason Jackson just won the Bellator title. So I got friends there, and man, it's cool to see. It's a crazy business that we're in, and as we talked about earlier. Fight every day like it could be your last, because you never know when these crazy changes are going to be happening.
Absolutely. Well, Michael, thank you very much again for the time today. Really appreciate it. Congrats on the product launch here, and looking forward to seeing you back soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. You have a great day.
You too. See ya.